So the 6 human needs. 6 human needs. There are 6 basic universal needs that make us tick. Okay? Now, each of us is going to have a primary and a secondary need. And combined, these needs are the force behind everything that we do. Okay? So remember this. You will have a primary and you will have a secondary need. All right? Now, when we talk about human needs, one of the things that we have to deal with is we have to deal with the fact that when you're starting a business, your needs are integral. Your needs are integral. What do I mean?
They're part of you. They're all the way through you.
They're all the way through you. Yes. And what happens when your needs aren't being met? Feels like something's missing? Okay. Go somewhere else to get them. What happens when your needs aren't being met to the extreme?
You die.
Or feel like you die, potentially. So what we're not talking about, we'll talk about this more in just a second, is we're not talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay? I'm not talking about food and shelter and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about psychological, spiritual, and emotional needs. Okay? Now, that being said, what happens is if you really track this stuff down and you really look at this, you can determine why most people that do bad things do bad things. But it also goes back to the same reason why many people that do good things do good things. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do because our needs need to be met. And so in many cases, we can see these things. So what you're going to figure out is you see the situations and scenarios on the TV where some kid goes into a school and starts shooting up a school, right? Why did that kid do that? A lot of people ask the questions, why? It's almost always going to be related to one of these 6 needs. Okay? It's almost always going to be related to one of these 6 needs. This is a key for us to understand because what happens with these needs is they define realistically why you do what you do because you have certain needs and you need those things to get met, right? So if I have certain needs and I need those things to get met, then what I'm going to do is my behaviors and actions will be driven based on those needs. Now, when we talked about core values, we said, okay, I choose my behaviors and actions based on my core values. And now I'm saying you choose your behaviors and actions based on your needs. So which is it?
Both.
Both. Why? Okay, I mean, think about it very simply. If I have a need, let's think about that, the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs for just a second. You say, I need food and I need shelter. And if you don't have food and you're starving to death, what will you do to get food?
Well, it all depends on your core values. Whether you kill somebody to get food, or you steal, or...
Okay.
Or you barter, or you work real hard one day to get more food.
So they're inextricably linked is the key. So what happens is your behaviors will be driven, your actions will be driven by your needs, and your core values will determine the direction of the drive. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense? So our needs drive us, our core values determine the direction. That's why it is when we go against our core values and when we go against our needs, why bad things happen. Okay? People say, well, why do bad things happen to good people? Because good people, even good people, make bad choices.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So as we look at this, you go back and look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Abraham Maslow, he presented these basic needs that you see in this pyramid, right? So we get this pyramid of needs that He set out for us for determination. Now, what happens with this is we have levels. So the first level is physiological. Meaning what? Physiological.
Our basic human needs.
Okay, so all your basic human needs, that we're talking needs, so don't use the word need with needs. So what is it? Give me examples.
Food, water, shelter, what you have to have, every living thing needs.
It's the most core, the most basic of things that we need for survival. The most basic of things. You cannot live very long if you have no food. You cannot live very long if you have no water. Right? We even see things like shelter. It's why it is you'll see the TV shows like with Bear Grylls and these kind of survivalist type shows out there, because what they're looking at is, I have no set shelter, how do I survive? Right? So those kinds of shows are touching on that basic physiological need. Now, the next step up from physiological needs is safety needs. Meaning what?
The protection of whether it be your job or your family or stuff like that, just so you know that they won't be penetrated or harmed.
Yeah, I need to feel some sort of safety, some sort of security of my mind, some sort of security within my body. I need to feel safe in some way, shape, or form. Right? So I've got these security needs. Now, the next need that he has is what we call the love and belonging needs. Okay? Meaning what?
Family, friends, and intimacy.
Connection with others. Absolutely. Family, friends, intimacy, that kind of stuff. Then you have esteem, which is? Recognition, okay. Feeling good, self-esteem, self-confidence, right? Self-belief, that kind of stuff. And then the final level is what's called self-actualization. Which means what?
Knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself, okay. That's things like, that's morals, okay. Creativity, right? It boils down to these types of areas. What are our internal values and those kind of things that we deal with? What is all of that? So that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So what we're not talking about is, when I'm talking about needs, is I'm not talking about that pure hierarchy of needs. Because most anyone, as far as physiological needs, I mean, you're gonna do what you need to do to put clothes on your back, food in your belly, a roof over your head, that kind of stuff, right? The vast majority of people. But what we're talking about more is what drives those behaviors and the actions that you deal with in there. And so what happens is not all feelings can be easily defined based on Maslow's hierarchy. Actually, it makes it very difficult to look at that and determine all of the feelings. And so what I've broken it down into, and when I'm looking at this, what I boil it down to is two core types of needs. So there's two types. I call them survival needs is the first area, okay? Survival needs is going to be the first area. The second area of need is going to be success needs. So in survival needs, you will have a primary and a secondary survival need. Now, like as you learn in communication, there are 4 basic social styles or communication styles, and everybody typically has a primary and a secondary, so it's the same thing. In survival needs, everyone has some of all 4 of these. But generally speaking, we're going to have a primary and we're going to have a secondary. And then all of us have the two success needs. Okay? We all have the two success needs. So, that being said, need number one when we're looking at this is in survival needs. One is certainty, or it could also be called comfort. Certainty or comfort, meaning what?
What you can depend upon.
Okay, what you can depend upon. All right. What else?
Mental inside the box thinking.
Mental inside the box thinking? Maybe.
It's the kind of thing that you know that will help you survive. Like, if an example is, it might be going back to like the physiological needs, but if you're out in the wilderness, something that you're certain of is a bunny has meat, and if I kill it, I get food.
Okay. Yes and no. Okay. So certainty is our need to feel in control. Okay? And to know what's coming up next. It's our need to feel in control and know what's coming up next. How many of you guys love change? It's like absolutely, when things happen and there's chaos in life and there's a lot of just fluctuation and all that. You just absolutely love it. No, you're the kind of guy that would drive home the same way from school every day, and because it makes you feel good and you have routines and that kind of stuff. That's certainty, by the way. That's certainty. Okay? Certainty is the need to be able to count on certain things. Right? And remember I said all of us have some level of all four of these, but some of us have way more than others. So for example, Shay, she can't stand change. It freaks her out. Right? Anything different, anything change, making a decision that might bring upon change and all that kind of stuff just absolutely freaks her out. So yesterday, I talked to her over the weekend, and one of the things that she said she had been wanting to do was to redo the laundry room, right? And so my laundry room, I've lived in that house since 2008, so it's been there a while, and never really have changed much in the way of actual painting in the house and those kind of things. And so the laundry room still had the wire racks that the house was built with, and a shelf that I had put up, and this, that, and the other. And so Sunday night, I went ahead and took everything out of the laundry room, took everything down. Of course, she was at work. She had worked this weekend. And so took everything down. So she comes home and there's nothing in the laundry room. And nothing. I was taking like the plates off the walls and stuff, the electrical cover plates. Yeah. And so there's nothing on there. And so she's excited and freaked out at the same time, right? Because it's something that she kind of wanted, but she's also kind of freaked out because now she's got to decide on colors, and what if she doesn't like the color, and you get the color and you put the color up, and what if it doesn't look right, and and so it's freaking her out, right? So certainty and comfort is this idea that routine and structure give us some certainty. Okay? So we have routine and we have structure. So, for example, a person that tends to be very analytical oftentimes lacks some degree of certainty, and you can tell that because they tend to have structure even in the way that they ask questions. Right? So they tend to be looking for a structure in things, systems in things, processes in things, to be able to understand and know routine. It goes back to, it's the same reason why the vast majority of the people will drive the same way to work and drive the same way home every single day. They don't take alternate routes, and it feels weird when they take an alternate route, right? It's that certainty. And then, people get in these routines, and sometimes routines turn into ruts, right? You get up, you have a little breakfast, you go to work, you come home, you sit down, you have a little dinner, you watch some TV, you go to bed, you get up, you do it all over again. Okay? So this is that concept of certainty. So if a person has a high degree of certainty in their life, lots of times we say, that person can be in a rut, but if certainty is your primary need, they feel good about that. Right? So if certainty is a person's primary need, they need to be able to count on things, and then all of a sudden there's a large amount of uncertainty. How are they going to feel? They're going to freak out. Okay, what else?
Unstable. They don't feel like they're standing on solid ground. They don't know where to step next.
Okay, they're going to feel unstable. They're going to get heavily stressed. Right? And then they may very well take action in order to attempt to create certainty, and to the extreme, that action may actually be bad. So why do you think it is now, when you think about these kind of things, why do you think it is that there's a high percentage of prisoners that when released from prison go back?
Because it is so hard to make a life on the outside where they're so structured. Everything. I mean, you can't even blink without them telling you what time to do it.
Okay.
You eat, you know what to wear, you know when to get up, you know when to go, you know when to exercise and all that. And when you go out, you're sleeping on somebody's couch because you can't get your own place. And
so in other words, what you've done is you've taken and trained an individual to depend on a certain degree of certainty, and now they get released and you take all of that away, and there is nothing but uncertainty for many of these people. Right? Just go back. At least I know I got 3 hots and a cot. I got some structure and do some stuff, do whatever, right? Okay, which leads me to number 2. So if the first one is certainty and comfort, the second one will be uncertainty, or also called variety. How many of you guys like surprises?
I do.
The good surprises.
The good surprises. Wait a minute, I didn't say good or bad surprise. I just said surprises. It could be any kind of surprise. It could be a good surprise. It could be a bad surprise. Yeah. Congratulations, you walked into the office this morning and nothing works. That's a surprise.
You won't be bored.
You won't be bored. Now, some people freak out about that. Some people don't really mind it. They know that, okay, now this is just more for me to deal with, but I got this.
Surprise, I'm back into your vehicle.
Yes. Congratulations. And so, and that kind of goes to that point. If you said, yes, I like surprises, you're kidding yourself, because you like surprises that you want.
Yeah.
Right? And so there are those surprises that you don't really want, and we tend to call surprises that we don't want problems, right? But we have to deal with these kinds of things, and so when you're looking at that, then and looking at the second need, which is uncertainty and variety, this is that the person that says, variety is the spice of life. Variety is a sense of change. Variety is the person that gets bored relatively easily. Okay?
It's like I go to the Chinese restaurant and never order the same thing twice.
Never order the same thing twice.
Go down, skip around, and my friends are going, how can you do that? They order the chicken chow mein every single time.
The little Chinese restaurant right across has the best General Tso's chicken in town, period. So I do get that every time I go, because it's just stinking delicious stuff, and I don't go very often. So I pretty much only go there, Hunan. I only go to that place whenever I want General Tso's chicken. And so, yeah, I mean, it's that thought process, right? Variety is the spice of life. The sense of change, the need for things to change. I mean, you think about this. Have you ever known somebody who it just seems like it seems like everything is set, everything is structured, everything is routine, and this, that, and the other, and that's a certainty factor. But then the person that would get bored with that is the need for variety. It kind of goes back to the reason why people tend to change jobs. Right? So you look at that idea in a person that's in a job and they say, well, I could do this forever, but I could also be in the same position forever. You know, do I have any movement capacity, whether it be vertically or laterally? Do I have any capacity to move? And if the answer is no, many people will change jobs. And I've interviewed tons of people over the years that have said, that have had really good jobs, right? Making lots of money. But at the end of the day, they got bored. And then they figure, I'll never go anywhere with this. I'll never be able to grow with this, right? There's where that variety comes in, that uncertainty comes in. And so that doing the same thing over and over again, if that gets boring to you, then that could be a challenge. Going back to Shay, one of the things that Shay absolutely loves babies, right? Just loves babies and loves to play with babies and this, that, and the other. And so when she first became a nurse, when she was going through nursing school, she said, I want to do delivery, right? Maternity and delivery. And so that would be amazing to people. You know, I could see babies all day, every day. And then when she got into school and she actually interned in maternity and delivery, she figured out, wait a minute, I'm doing basically the same 4 things every day. Every patient, every scenario, every situation, I'm doing basically the same 4 things every day. Now, certainty is her primary need. But she got to looking at that scenario and saying, well, wait a minute, I'm developing all of these skills, and so therefore I would not use 95% of those skills, which would not make me marketable. And so what happened? Her ability to market herself, that certainty was more important than the other certainty. See, so even though some people would look at it and say, well, wait a minute, she just doesn't want to do the same thing over and over again. No, it was more important for her to have the certainty of being able to have a job in the future and be able to go where she needs to have a job. That certainty trumped the certainty that she loves babies and all that kind of stuff. Yes, sir?
Yeah. Would there be a way to maybe overcome the uncertainty? Like from being bored almost all the time?
A person that's bored almost all the time, being able to overcome that? Absolutely. You know, when you think about this stuff, the two are very connected to one another. A person that typically is bored all the time because of the fact that they're not doing something that actually satisfies their other needs. It also doesn't necessarily satisfy their core values. And so they're doing activities, and some of these activities may be very fun. I mean, you take Jace, for example. Jace is, he's almost 8 years old, and he's gotten to where he really likes to play on the tablet, right? And so he's playing the little video games on the tablet and this, that, and the other. He'll get so caught up in that, he'll spend hours in that. But that's not really what he likes to do. He just gets caught up in it because there's so many different things he can click on, right? And so that being said, then that's where things like our inner circle and our accountability partners and those kind of things will come in to be able to say, hey, what you got going on? What are you dealing with? What are you doing today? Especially if uncertainty is a primary need, it's also where we want to look at what is the variety of things in my business that I am able to do, right? So for example, if you're a baker and all you do is bake white sheet cakes all day long, every day, what are you besides working at Walmart?
Yeah.
You're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Same thing over and over again. If certainty is your primary need, that's fine because routine is important. But if uncertainty is your primary need, you're going to get bored very, very quickly. So then what do you need to do? You need to build different things. different styles of cake, different flavors of cake. Experiment with different flavors, right? Experiment with different profiles. Experiment with different things that you can put on the cake, in the cake, things that you can do with it. Next thing you know, now you got a cake that's 4 layers tall. It's got all kinds of funky stuff all over it. One of the layers is filled with strawberry filling. You got another one that's filled with blueberry filling. You got a third layer that's filled with Nutella, right? And then you have the top layer that's got whipped cream all in the middle of it. So you cut down through that thing. Now you got a little bit of that hazelnut chocolate, some strawberry, some blueberry, some whipped cream, some cake. You got all kinds of funky stuff. Woo! I'm salivating a little bit just thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you know, but that thought process is this is the stuff that you don't see in most traditional type bakeries, right? You don't see that. Why don't you see that? Because they get caught up in that whole, this is what I gotta bake, this is what I gotta bake, this is what I mean. You go to Costco, you go to Walmart, you go to Sam's Club, you go to that kind of stuff. What do you see? You see white cake, yellow cake, marble cake, chocolate cake, right? Flat cake, flat frosting, maybe got a little design on it, but they don't even put most of the designs on it anymore. It's a sticker, an edible sticker. They right there on top of the cake, and it's like, yeah, because they have a little squeezy thing that squeezes out a flour. And there you go. There's your flour. Right? No. If you want uncertainty and variety, you'll know a person who runs a bakery that primary need is uncertainty and variety because you don't see 2 cakes that look the same in the display case. They all look different. Person says, "Can I have another cake like that?" Nope, didn't make another one.
Yes.
That one, or you're gonna have to have something different. What you need? Okay, no, we don't do that here. You know, there's no such thing as same old in this joint, right? So uncertainty is that. It's that drive. But again, uncertainty tends to drive more creative aspects and creative processes for how we do things and to be able to do things differently as opposed to a certainty who says, this is the way you do it. Right? Certainty says I get a recipe and I follow the recipe. Uncertainty says, let's throw a little dash of that in there and see what oh yeah, that turned out, right? Or, that's nasty. Let me not do that again. Nasty, right?
We'll eat supper and my husband will say, "This was so good. Can you make it again?"
Probably not.
Because he knows how I cook.
Right.
Can you duplicate this? Do you know what you put in it?
Absolutely. I have no idea.
No idea.
So if you want me to start duplicating my recipes, you're going to start videoing what I do because I don't remember. I'll just make it taste good. That's right. How did you come up with vanilla in chili? I don't understand. How is that good?
Soy sausage.
You know? All right. So need number 1 is certainty or comfort. Need number 2 is uncertainty or variety. Need number 3 is significance. Significance, or also called recognition. Now, there is some small part of significance or recognition that is the pat on the back, that is the, hey, good job. It is that, but it's only a very tiny, tiny portion of that. Significance or recognition, what I mean here is that though we all feel the need to feel a little special, a little unique, a little that kind of stuff, certain of us have much deeper need than that, and it's the need to be recognized as a human being. You get what I mean? It's the need to be known. The need to be, hey, I am here. Right? So going back to one of the examples that I used in the beginning, talking about the kid that walks into the school and shoots up the school. Have you ever noticed, if you've ever done any research on that, in almost every single case, it was, well, he or she was a lone wolf. They were off by themselves. They didn't really have any friends. They didn't really talk to anybody. They're kind of weird, a little bit strange, right? So what do you have? You have somebody who's all alone, who's generally not recognized by their peers. Many times they feel invisible. Often they don't feel like anyone cares or understands. They don't feel like they have peers, right? Even though they really do. They don't feel like they have peers. Oftentimes this is the person that feels like nobody gets it. They don't feel significant. They feel completely insignificant. So if the need then is significance and a person feels insignificant, then depending on the core values, they can take extreme measures to get significance or recognition. Think about the guy that does the muggings, right? You're walking down the street. Some guy walks up to you randomly, puts a gun to the side of your head, give me all your money. Does he have significance at that particular point? Extreme. Is there recognition of him as a human at that particular point? Absolutely. Does he need your $4.37? Probably not really. Right? Goes back to explanations. When needs aren't being met and they're not being met to the extreme, right? People tend to do things, and this is what helps to explain to us why people do bad things. Right? They may not even understand a good way, depending on the scenario. They may not even understand a good way to get significance, to get recognition. You go out there, you start your business, you earn $1 billion. Why do you care about $1 billion? Why do we have shows out there like Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
Yeah.
And why do people watch them, even though they're idiotic?
Yeah.
Right? Because they have significance, and in many cases we watch these shows because it gives us some small feeling of significance because we're trying in some way to identify with someone who we perceive that they have significance themselves. When in reality, them some jacked up people. They are messed up. I don't want none of that. No, thank you. That's not the kind of significance that I want.
It's kind of on that note, what you're saying as far as significance and recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Back in Columbine, one of the guys that was the shooters, there's one person that he talked to every once in a while. The person would just reach out and try and talk to him. And the day of the shooting, they had seen each other before school, and the guy told him, the shooter told him, don't go to school today, go home. Because he invested in him so much, he was just like, you know what, I'll let you live.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that because he had that, he was recognized by him, that's why he's like, okay, I don't want anything to happen to you.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, isn't it? When you start looking at these things and you start really breaking these down, you begin to understand more and more why people do what they do. Okay? Our needs have to be met. The number one reason for marital discourse, needs aren't being met. People say the number one cause of divorce in the United States is money. The number two cause of divorce is communication, specifically about money. But in reality, though those are easily trackable statistics, in reality it's more because certain needs aren't being met. Right? Now, the money may be a symptom of the need. It may be an effect of the need. There may even be some part of a cause of some of those issues within there. But break it down to its deepest core. It's why it is the easiest marriage counseling in the world. It is getting people to truly understand, if you focus on meeting my needs and I focus on meeting your needs, we have healthy boundaries within that, then we will be happy. But it goes back to that whole golden rule versus platinum rule idea. The golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated. Well, you don't want to be treated how I want to be treated. You don't want to be treated how I want to be treated. You don't want to be treated how I want to be treated. Y'all don't want to be treated how I want to be treated because I am me. Platinum rule says treat people how they want to be treated, right? But you first have to determine how they want to be treated. That's the problem. People don't invest enough time. And that's the problem with needs. Many people don't ever even go through this. They don't even understand that there are 6 basic needs, let alone what theirs are. Guarantee you this, if you start up a business and that business is opposite what your needs are, you will not be in business all that long. And the entire time you are, you will be miserable. Okay? Significance and recognition. Need number 4 is love or connection. Love or connection. Do you know babies will die if they don't receive love? Newborn babies can actually die if they don't receive enough love. It's crazy, isn't it? So, need number 4, the love and connection need is that simple. It's the need to feel loved. Whereas up here we're talking about the need to feel significance, right? This is more of a social need. This is more of a personal need. The need to feel loved and connected to others, close relationships, that kind of stuff. So I can tell you this. If I'm looking at these 4 needs, I know what Shay's primary and secondary needs are. Her primary need is love and connection. Her secondary need is certainty and comfort. Okay? Love and connection, when we love completely, we feel alive. Right? When I love deeply, I feel alive. But when I don't have that, then the pain becomes so great that I don't know what to do. You see people that lose somebody. And that's natural. When you lose somebody that you're close to, you're going to feel sadness. Right? But it's not natural when you lose somebody that you're close to, you feel so sad that you end up committing suicide yourself.
Right.
You know?
Or you knock everybody else out of your life.
Yeah.
You isolate yourself so you'll never be hurt again.
So the person that has significance and recognition as a primary need, this person may go to great lengths. Have you ever known anybody that, they're just a complainer. It's just like, some of these people, I'd rather just punch them in the mouth than talk to them, you know what I'm saying? Because they just won't shut up. It's like, come on, stop complaining. But they feel significance or recognition from complaining, right? It's like, you ever heard the term pity party? Oh, misery loves company? Oh, yeah. Love and connection need is actually the same, just it tends to be a different direction. Now that's a negative in significance and recognition. Don't get me wrong, not everybody's like that. Okay? But, love and connection is more that, can I talk to you about my feelings? To close relationships and that kind of stuff. Communication is so important. We need to have a talk and we need to discuss these things and we need to, because I need that connection, right? So it's important that we all have connection. And so what happens is when you have a significance need that goes too far, you can actually stand out so much that you're completely different, right? You see, like the guy that's done all the facial stuff, he looks like a lizard now. He's had his tongue split and all. Some of us look at that and it's just like, that's nasty. You're stinking disgusting. But then others of us look at that and like, oh, that's kind of cool because, he's being uniquely him. He's standing out. He's getting, there's significance and recognition. But, when we're not standing out, we look for change. Here, the same thing. When I don't feel loved, I'm looking for a change. When I don't feel connection, I tend to look for a change. And, and people that love and connection need, in many, many cases, when we have to deal with these kind of things, what happens is we see, okay, well, wait a minute, why do people cheat? Well, because the love and connection need wasn't necessarily being met. Now, it could be any of these other needs too, but But using that as an example, the love and connection need wasn't necessarily being met. So what's the number one reason that people often give when they cheat? Well, she just wasn't paying me attention, or he just wasn't paying me attention, right? Well, that's this. Right?
And so many of them will say it's not really the physical part. They had somebody that they could talk to. And
That's how it started, right? Because connection tends to come before love. Right? Now, the part of the problem is that many of us have a messed up idea of love because of the society today. We look at what's actually lust and call it love, and say, okay, well, this is love. No, it's not. It's lust. That's not really it. But again, we all have that need. So we all have all four of us, but we all have a primary and a secondary within us. And that drives the actions that we take. Right? Now, the two success needs. The two success needs. Success needs are those two needs that we all have. We all have them. Not a primary and a secondary on that one. There's only two. So you got a primary and a secondary. That's the two. Right? We all have these needs. You will not feel truly fulfilled in life. You will not feel truly happy in life. This will help you feel happy. But this is required for a greater depth of happiness. So what I oftentimes like to say is you can get happy from these, you can get joy from these. Okay? Remember, happiness is external, joy is internal, right? These are needs that have to be met for you to become successful or feel successful in life overall. Number 5, or the first success need, is growth. Growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. If a relationship is not growing, it's wilting, it's dying. Anything, it's one of the most basic laws of the universe. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. There's no such thing as standing still. Anything standing still is dying. Okay? So there's no such thing as being flat. If a business isn't growing, it's dying. If it's not moving forward, it's moving backward. Every relationship is the same thing. If you're not personally growing, you're personally dying. Okay? It goes all the way down to the most basic cellular level. Cells either grow or die. It's that simple. Okay? Did you know that a study was done on retirement? And what it found that the average person in retirement has if they have nothing planned, they have a 5-year life expectancy. If they have no plans for retirement, they have a 5-year life expectancy. Isn't that crazy? Do you know what's even more shocking about that? It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever at what age you retire. If you retire at 75, or if you retire at 45, you have a 5-year life expectancy if you have nothing to do. It's because if we're not growing, you're dying. Growth is imperative. It's why it is we constantly focus on learning. We focus on moving forward, taking steps, doing that kind of stuff. Because if I'm not learning something, I'm dying. It goes back to those shocking statistics that we read about stuff. When you look at the fact that 36% of high school graduates will never read another book in their life. What's even worse, 42% of college graduates will never read another book in their life. But here's the most interesting thing. If you read 1 hour a day, one hour a day in your chosen field, you will become an international expert within 7 years. 1 hour. 1. So the amount of time that it takes the average person to become a doctor going through full-time college, you could become an international expert in the number of years, but instead of spending 8 to 10 hours a day doing it, you're spending 1. Crazy is that? And it's crazy. It's because growth is imperative. And the key here, the key difference between the two, the doctor and the reading the 1 hour, is because the reading of the 1 hour is highly focused and intentional in a specific field, whereas most of your traditional college courses and those kind of things, is that there's a lot of wastage of time, right? Because it is good tuition money, right? Okay, so growth is number 5. Number 6, the final one, is significance. Significance. Okay? Otherwise known, now this is different from this kind of significance. This is recognition. This is contribution. This is a personal significance. This is a social significance. Contribution. Contribution is our highest emotional need. Contribution is the belief that it's not just about me. I mean, think about it. What's the first thing you do when you get some exciting news?
Call the person most important to you.
No, you want to share it, right? Sharing is caring, isn't that what they say? Isn't it funny how amazing you feel when you do something for someone else? That's contribution. And if you've never felt that, it's probably because you've never done anything for anyone else. It's one of those things that I even set myself a reminder from time to time just to remind me, today I will do something for someone who has no ability to do something back for me. Because if I'm doing it in order to get something in return, that's payment, that's not contribution. You see? And I do that all the time. I try to do that every day. In fact, every day I try to make at least one contribution or do at least one thing for someone else that has no ability, no authority, or I have no desire for repayment from that person. Sometimes it's just trying to speak a little word into their life, into somebody's life. It's why if you look at like my Facebook, for example, my personal Facebook and those kind of things, you'll find that I more often than not will have motivational quotes and those kind of things that I'll put on there because, there are little nuggets of information. I've always believed in nuggets. There are those little nuggets of information that just speak to people. And it's amazing at how often I get people that'll message me saying, hey, you must have had me in mind today. That really spoke to me today. I had somebody in mind. It wasn't specifically you, but I just thought somebody would benefit from it today. Sometimes I'll give a big honking tip at the restaurant for somebody that, the waiter does, the waitress does a really good job. And it's like, I don't need to do that. I get no benefit really from doing that. But I've watched people cry before because it's made the difference in their life. It's amazing at how we feel when we do something great for someone else. I mean, you look at all the disasters and you look at all this kind of stuff that happen around the world all the time. And what part can we play in that? What part can we play in that? And that's the key with contribution, because contribution is the act, not just the intention, but it's the act to improve the position of someone else. Okay? The act to improve the position of someone else. Not just the intention. You must have the intention, okay? And that improvement can be physical or emotional improvement.
The act to improve the what of someone else?
The position of someone else. Contribution makes us feel good. But we're wired that way. That's why we all have these. You know, it's kind of funny because, I mean, you look at a guy like Bill Gates. Do you know what his ultimate end goal for life is? His end goal. To give away his last dollar on the day he dies. Do you know what's kind of strange? Do you realize since he retired from Microsoft, he's no longer working at Microsoft. When he retired from Microsoft, his net worth was right at $32 billion. And to date, I looked at it not long ago, to date, he's given away over $21 billion. So you're not making any more money. Your net worth is 32. You're giving away 21. So theoretically, you should have $11 billion left. So how is it he's still the richest man in the world?
When you give money to other people, you get blessed in return.
It's not my math, it's God's math. But that being said, do you know that there have been studies that have been done on this specifically? And what they found is that people who give receive. It's the law of sowing and reaping. And these are not religious studies. These are governmental studies that have researched this stuff out. A person who gives on a regular basis and does for others and contributes on a regular basis is statistically much higher likely to make more money, to have more income, to lead a happier life. Interesting. Now, there are many people who posit why that might be. For our purposes, it's less important why that might be. It's more important that it is. It's the law of sowing and reaping at work. You reap what you sow. You want good things, you must sow good things. You want to receive, you must give. It's kind of funny because, even I hear people say all the time, it's better to give than receive. It's better to give than receive. It's better to give than receive. Absolutely, it's better to give than receive, but you have to receive in order to give. So in other words, your job is not to be a reservoir, it's to be a river. Flow things through you, not flow things to you. That's what contribution is all about. You become the funnel. Right? Contribution is that. You grow because of your focus. Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite quotes, said, "You can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." What is he talking about? Contribution. You have a primary need, survival need. You have a secondary survival need, and all of us have the success need. So what I want you to do is, before you go through the next class, I want you to sit down and I want you to really think about what is my primary survival need? What is my secondary survival need? Because you need to be able to match that up with your core values so you can determine, is this the right path? And by the way, once you match these needs up with your values, it makes every decision in life easy. Makes every decision in life easy. All I got to do is keep it in your wallet. Take out my little list. Does this match this? This? Yes. Perfect. It's done. I got a no here. No, that's it. We're done. Moving on. Right? Makes decisions much easier. Makes life much easier. So determine what your survival needs are. Know that we all have the success needs. And then match those up with your core values, and that's how we'll be successful